HVAC and IT management with honors. She planned on being here, but she wasn't able to make it. So if I may, I'd like to welcome and introduce her chief of staff, Teresa Smith. Hello, Teresa.
Hello, good morning, everybody. Vice Mayor Lee sends her sincere apologies for not being able to attend the beginning, as she was just called away to a meeting. And as you just explained, her job, when National Defense calls you into an emergency meeting, you answer the call. So we just want to say thank you to everyone for participating in this important project with us. Vice Mayor Lee and all of us in the Ward 4 office are extremely excited about implementing Connect Home in the city of Tucson, with the goal of increasing digital access and education for all Tucsonans. As many of you have just learned from that great introduction, Vice Mayor Lee grew up in rural Illinois and joined the United States Air Force after high school. She stepped up to serve in the military, which afforded her the opportunity to further her education in information technology. She has worked in national defense cybersecurity for over 20 years and knows firsthand the importance of digital access for all. As a mother to 3 beautiful children and a daughter to hardworking parents, she knows the importance of digital access and education for our children all the way to our seniors. As the Vice Mayor of Tucson, she understands the importance of digital education for Tucson's economy. After 2020, we all understand how important it is, from people changing careers or growing in their jobs to skill building for veterans entering the Tucson workforce. Digital access and education must be equitable for all Tucsonans. So we want to thank everybody here today who's been working in the digital inclusion and equity space for a while. We're excited to learn from your experience and use what you've learned to strengthen our efforts. We want to say thank you to Hannah from our Ward 4 office and Hennessis from the office of Mayor Regina Romero. Liz Morales from the City of Tucson's Housing and Community Development Director, Allison Miller from Housing. She's our point of contact for Connect Home in Tucson. Dr. Mary Ellen Brown and Mick Salick from the ASU Office of Community Health, Emergency and Resiliency. Teresa Noon from Pima Community College and City of Tucson's Office of Economic Initiatives. Lasha Summers, I'm sorry if I'm messing up your guys' names, Ashley Vo and Stephanie Schmelnick from the local HUD regional office, Mike Edmonds, Tucson House Resident Council and MC extraordinaire, and special thanks to our facilitators and note takers from ASU, OSHER, and the HCD City team. Thank you, and a special welcome to all of our private, nonprofit, and government partners on the call, both locally and national ConnectHomeUSA stakeholders. We welcome you to please introduce yourselves in the chat, and as Allison just mentioned, please feel free to share your contact information if you so choose to. So sending it back over to you guys.
All right, thank you, Teresa.
Thank you.
And tell Vice Mayor we all said hello when you get a chance.
Sure will. She'll probably join us a little bit later as soon as our meeting's off, so definitely.
Is she bringing snacks?
Yeah, virtual snacks.
Oh.
Yeah.
Had to ask, you never know. And yeah, I neglected, I guess, to introduce myself, but I was introduced. So it's Mike, involved in Thriving 05, and because they let me hang around. So, and anything else I can get involved with, it's productive and moves our community forward. Next up is Laisha, and the reason I know that is because I actually had to find out that I was mispronouncing it. So Laisha Summers, program analyst from the local HUD field office in Phoenix. She's got an overview of the National Connect Home USA program. Laisha, did I pronounce it correctly?
Yes, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, good morning, everyone. I am Laisha Summers. I'm a program analyst with Housing and Urban Development's Field Policy and Management office here in Phoenix. I have had the pleasure of working with Allison and Rachel and team as in Tucson, as they have onboarded as a Connect Home community in 2020. Launched in 2015, Connect Home is a public-private collaboration designed to narrow the digital divide for residents living in HUD-assisted housing. Connect Home was designed to address the three-legged tool of digital inclusion, affordable connectivity, training, and low-cost devices. Under the leadership of national nonprofit Everyone On and supported by HUD ConnectHomeUSA. Oh, stay on the last slide, please. Not there yet. ConnectHomeUSA assists selected communities to build place-based solutions for narrowing the digital divide so HUD-assisted residents can access affordable internet, devices, training, and 21st century opportunities. Next one. Connect Home creates a platform for community leaders, local governments, nonprofit organizations, and private industry to join together and produce locally tailored solutions for building strong digital inclusion programs. We have been able to collaborate with some fantastic partners throughout the years and look forward to bringing those partnerships to Tucson so we can work together to narrow the digital divide and assist low-income families and HUD-assisted families not only access the internet, but also the necessary equipment, as well as the resources to utilize those tools to their greatest potential. Here you will see a map of all of our Connect Home sites. Tucson's Housing and Community Development Department became a Connect Home USA community in fall of 2020, along with 12 other communities in the 2020 cohort. These communities are able to use each other for resources, hear about best practices, and generate ideas. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I was actually scrolling through because I got a copy of that as well, so I was kind of trying to match you, and I went just a little too far. But thank you, Laisha, appreciate it. And now our next presenter, I have to get right because she knows where I live. Our city's Director of Housing and Community Development with an overview of what Connect Home looks like in Tucson, ladies and gentlemen, Liz Morales.
Thank you. Mr. Edmonds is always the best introducer, so thank you for that. And I do enjoy visiting you where you live. So I want to just share with all of you, first of all, thank you for joining us today. Thank you to HUD as our great partner for selecting us to be part of Connect Home. This is such an exciting opportunity to work with so many of our partnering agencies across the country, and also with our partners that are in the private sector around technology, and just really excited to see what comes out of today's meeting. And again, thank you for investing your time to help us in Tucson to make this happen. So I just want to share a little bit about the city of Tucson. We are part, the Housing and Community Development Department is also a PHA, where we have over 1,500 public housing units that we own and operate as a landlord. We also have over 5,500 housing choice vouchers. The housing choice vouchers are rental assistance that's provided to private landlords on behalf of the participants of the program. We also own and operate an additional 451 units that are below market, affordable units. And so we are in the business of being a landlord, but we also want to also ensure that our participants have the access and the equity that Teresa was talking to some of the opportunities around digital, the digital world, so that they can be, you know, whether it's education and operating in employment and just learning. So that's really important to us for our tenants. On the community development side, we also receive and administer CDBG's program, ESG, which is for homelessness, HOME, which is around developing housing, and the HOPWA program. We fund over 20 agencies with our human services funds we get through mayor and council and through the CDBG programs. This demonstrates our reach through City of Tucson. On the left side there, those are our units and where they're located. We definitely are scattered. We have, as I mentioned, over 1,500 public housing units, about over 500 are single family, and then the remainder are a combination of large and small multifamily. On the right side, you could see also the reach of our Section 8 participants. It is diverse. It is in every part of our city. And so that gives you an overall view of our geographical view. So a small snapshot, we have over 17,000 residents, which equals to about 7,200 households in all our programs. Our average income for our families in all our programs is around 11,000. When you look at our families, 45% of those are household members who have children under 18, and almost 48% report a family member with a disability. So we have all ages, young and old, and with all different types of needs. Here you can see our largest race and ethnicity is Hispanic or Latino, or Latinx is the right term. We also have a good, higher than representation of Black and African American in our public housing. When you look at the ages, again, young and old, we have a very diverse set of ages throughout our program. We did a survey this past summer to understand where we are at with our residents and their ability to get access to technology. And we found that 50% of them did not have access to a computer or tablet at home. 36% did not even have wireless internet in their home. 51% have school-age children that need to attend school virtually. Our state did require some type of hybrid work education, but we still know that there's still a great need for our school-age children to be able to do school in some type of virtual way. 24% had an adult who needed to attend school virtually as well. So what does Connect Home look like for Tucson? And so far, here's some information that we have come to some conclusions. Not only are our residents diverse demographically, but they also are diverse geographically. So they live all over the city. And Tucson is new to this work around the digital environment. And we know that we have to start small. We also have to rely on our partnerships and build up slowly by targeting specific groups. This year, we've been focusing on our largest apartment complex, which is known as Tucson House. And it is home to the majority of older adults. But as we build up this effort, we want to develop strategies to engage residents across the city, including our scattered sites. We also want to be a collaborative partner and work to plug those residents into opportunities right away. Our Pima Community College and ASU are our partners and are engaged in committing in the planning efforts to date. We're looking at this as a fourth leg of the stool where we can build and partner with PCC and build those connections to education and workforce training, because we know that it's not just enough to be connected, but what can people do once they're connected, once they have that access? How can they further their goals, whether it's employment or to get new training, or just to further their education. And so we're really excited about the fourth leg of the stool with our partners, Pima Community College. And the next slide just says, we're ready to do some work. We're ready to go to the next step. So just to let you know, we did in 2020 and now into 2021, we've done a few things. We did some targeted outreach to understand our residents, what were their needs, and then we did a pilot. We brought in wireless devices, routers, brought in a peer support group to help people, again, many of them older adults, some with some disabilities, to help them get engaged with this new technology. And we're now in the information gathering, exploring options for building a wide internet and what are additional digital needs we need that our residents have. So a more in-depth assessment of that. And then through that, we want to develop an action plan, convene our partners, find out who we want as our champions. We already have the great Vice Mayor Nikki Lee as a wonderful champion, but there's probably more in our community that we can look to, and also annually review and revise our strategies around the action plan. I think, oh, there's one more. And so today's goals, and I, again, thank you for being here. And we want this to be an interactive, productive time where we can discuss not just existing efforts, but brainstorm ideas for strengthening our existing efforts and bringing in new initiatives. And we want to energize and mobilize a diverse collaboration. We want to strengthen what we have here locally. And then we want to begin to identify the themes and goals for the action plan and develop some stakeholder committees. So if we could accomplish all this today, we'll be off to a great start. And again, we want to learn from those of you who've been doing this. We want, again, appreciate HUD's vision and getting the housing PHAs to do this. And again, to our partners who have the resources and the programs, we're so excited to be able to envision how we could work together. So thank you for this opportunity to speak to all of you, and I'm excited to see where we go.
Thank you, Liz. I'll see you later. We usually run into each other.
Yes. Thank you, Mike.
I want to interject a confession here. I am a recipient and beneficiary of the Community Wireless Program. At this moment, I am using the Community Wireless Service, so I can join you. So just so you know, it works. It works great. And there's more to come. We'll probably be talking more about that later, so I'll spare you the details. Now we're gonna let's see. We're breaking into small groups at this point. I thought. Sorry. In a moment. We're gonna break into small groups. And I have a couple of people I want to introduce now to talk about some of the best practices and examples from other Connect Home communities. One is Mick, who I communicate with regularly. We kind of share information. Mick, is a correct pronunciation of your last name Salik or Salik?
Salik.
Salik. I'm glad I asked. Mick Salik. And Jared Frank. Jared, is the pronunciation of your first name Jared or Jared?
Jared.
Just checking. Okay. All right. Gentlemen, take it away.
Hey, everyone. Thanks, Mike. Jared Frank, City of Tucson Housing Community Development. I'm going to pull up my screen here real quick. So Liz had mentioned the concept of the legs of the stool and had brought in that fourth one. I'm going to hit the first three, being connectivity, devices, and digital literacy, but just so there's no confusion, how many legs are on the stool? There are four, but what I'm going to do is hit the first three and some of HUD's best practices for implementation of the Connect Home relating to each one of these three elements. I'll say everything that is in here. You can find more information in the Connect Home Playbook, which I believe went out with the link to the PDF went out in the invitation registration email. A lot of good information in there, real quick kind of overview read, but lots of good stuff. So I would suggest checking that out maybe over lunch. Then after that, I'll hand it off to Mick, and he's going to give us a few success stories here from other cities where you can see some of these tactics and models that I'm showing in action. Right? So everyone can see the screen? All right. Okay, so let's dive in. On the connectivity piece, just getting the internet service to the resident, to the end user here, right? HUD outlines three different models where how this can be done. Individual internet service provider subscriptions, internet meaning resident to resident. Each resident will hold their own contract with the service provider. Wireless hotspots, internet enabled tablets, cellular data that is either routed through a hotspot to a device or directly to the device, and then property-wide internet connections. So I'm not going to go through everything here on this slide, but just a few key points in how things can get rolled out, how implementation can happen. If existing service is in a building, then it becomes a lot easier to use a couple of these models because the fiber optic or whatever is already there and already ready to be piped into. If that's not the case, that's going to take planning, time, investment, not quick results on that. The wireless hotspot option is the quickest and easiest way to get it up and running. So throughout all of these models, best practices, recommendations, there's not one right way to do it. It's almost an a la carte. So finding the right thing and customizing for what the needs are of the community, what the needs are of the property is the approach. One example would be getting something up and running through a hotspot approach, distributing the hotspots, internet devices, and then at the same time planning maybe a longer range goal of getting property-wide internet that's plugged in. They almost call it like a utility. You'd have water, you'd have electric, you'd have gas piped into a unit. Same with connectivity for internet. Couple other considerations here that stood out. Under the first model, residents hold their own contracts. So that whole navigation, the billing cycle and everything, there might need to be that sense of support there. Also, residents past debt can affect some of these if they're working directly with the service providers. So a couple of key things to keep in mind when deciding which model to use or which model to use in the interim while we build out a longer range model. Onto devices, and HUD's going to stress computers and tablets, something above a smartphone, something that's for more robust usage, right? Couple key considerations in just that leg of the stool: acquisition, how do we obtain the devices, and then distribution, what's the arrangement for who owns it, who manages the device. In acquisition, there's three broad models that are laid out. Refurbished devices, and I think that's kind of one of the more popular ones. Identifying community partners that cycle through a lot of devices and upgrade often. So universities, government, library, I think hospitals were another one. Identifying those agencies, organizations, or industry and seeing what kind of arrangement and partnership can be worked out there. Internet service providers can sometimes, or will sometimes, along with a contract, provide free or discounted devices. I think Nick might have an example of that coming up in a bit of how that was utilized in one of the success story communities that he's highlighting. And then donors too, who in the community is interested in donating to narrowing the digital divide, and can we partner with them? So after acquiring the devices for residents, how is it, how does this work? And two main models that they show: the managed model, which is the housing agency or whomever obtains ownership, retains ownership of the device, and it comes with the unit, like they liken it to an appliance. So I would move in, I would have use of that device until I moved out. The device would stay for the next resident. And then the ownership model, where the housing agency usually is the conduit that's going to either provide the device to the resident or assist them and help them in the process of obtaining the device. And then moving on to the third leg, digital literacy. Now that we've got the connection, we have the internet here, we have it on a device, what's the best way to get people using it to, I think, like Liz said, achieve their goals, right? And I think that that's the theme that seems to come back a lot. What goals do people have, and how can we help them achieve it in the digital space? So partnering with community organizations, and I think that's one of the big reasons that we're all here today. And the stress is really on who is already providing it. I mean, there's no need to create something right alongside something that's already working. The experience that's already existing in the community has value for a whole myriad of reasons. So identifying those key players that are already in line with what we want to accomplish through this program. Designing the trainings for the audience. So this being when trainings are held, that they are tailored to various segments. So, you know, for example, a high school student using the digital space is probably going to have different goals and different needs than a retiree. Different people, where they are in life, are going to use the internet in a different fashion. And so having it meaningful to those individuals is key. Regular and convenient trainings. So this is to encourage people to come back. And I think we've experienced that some here in the department. As far if you schedule it, they will come. And that consistency of come on back, convenient place, same time, encourages people to continue in programs and trainings and then to eventually finish them. Promoting the events, a lot of players involved in this, integrating the communication so that individuals know what they're looking at. Keeping the programs on brand is important. Kind of having that identity that people can connect with when you have all sorts of players working to help promote it. And then they suggest too, like ambassadors for the program, people in the community that are trusted, that individuals will recognize. And also, once we have some success behind us, maybe bringing in past participants that can talk about what they've learned and how the program has helped them. And then the last example on here, I think is interesting as far as kind of combining the different elements into like one effort. So making it worth their while with upfront benefits in these trainings, learning, whatever it might be that helps the goals, be it, you know, shared documents, connecting to Wi-Fi, learning truth from fiction and internet searches, whatever it might be, adding that in with long-term incentives. And those long-term incentives can really kind of encapsulate the first two legs of the chair. So for this example, for individuals that have finished the training, the digital literacy piece of it, can a free or discounted computer or tablet, or can a free or discounted internet subscription be kind of awarded at the end for that type of thing, that type of success in the digital literacy segment of this. So that would be one strategy for integrating the connectivity, the devices, and the digital literacy. So with that, that's me taking you through the HUD best practices overview. Like I said, I'd recommend you doing the deeper dive in the Connect Home booklet playbook. I will hand it over to Mick. Be there, Mick.
Hi, thank you, Jared. I appreciate everyone for coming today and being here. My name is Mick Salik. I'm a graduate student at Arizona State University, pursuing my master's degree in social work with a concentration on policy, administration, and community practice. As part of ASU's Community Health Engagement and Resiliency, or OCHR for short, we serve residents located in the 85705 zip code. Our organization was developed as part of the 2018 HUD Choice Neighborhoods Grant in partnership with Tucson House Residents Council and the Old Posca Yaqui community. So we view the area of digital inclusion as vital towards our mission of empowering local community in the development of equity and sustainability in health, education, and economic outcomes for the residents that we serve. So in my time with OCHR, I've been directly involved in conducting surveying efforts on digital access and literacy at Tucson House specifically. So I wanted to highlight some of the case studies and successes of how Connect Home has been implemented in a diverse range of cities and localities throughout the United States. Next slide, please. So I wanted to first talk about Detroit, Michigan. So last year, a digital inclusion fund named Connect 313 was launched through an event at Rocket Mortgage Classic PGA Tour Golf Tournament. And the city of Detroit collaborated with Rocket Companies, which is the parent company of Rocket Mortgage, and management of this fund to promote digital inclusion efforts throughout the city. So they used some of this money to create centralized hubs or internet access points in neighborhoods and community centers throughout the city. Some of the funding also went to local libraries to allow residents to rent hotspots for their own personal use. And other funding was used to develop data collection capacity to assess the needs of digital access and literacy for all low-income residents in Detroit. Other funding was used to set up Human IT, which is a nonprofit that was developed through this Connect 313 initiative to provide low-cost refurbished computing devices to all residents in the city who qualify as low income. So they operated as stores, computer stores essentially, throughout the city that allowed residents to go in and purchase devices at low cost. And they also provided a centralized IT tech support. So if residents had issues with their computers that they bought from the store, they could call the IT tech support, or they can even bring their devices in to be serviced. Digital literacy trainings were also provided through Human IT as well. They utilized local spaces, so residents had easy access to receive digital literacy trainings. And I also wanted to touch on the Director of Digital Inclusion. His name is Joshua Edmonds, and he was recently named the Director of Digital Inclusion through the city's Technology and Innovations Department. And I wanted to speak about him because he's one of the few individuals currently serving in city government from across the United States, whose specific role is to develop and manage digital inclusion on a citywide basis. So he's also considered what we call the Connect Home champion for the city of Detroit, according to the best practices. So he's brought into the position following his success in developing a digital inclusion initiative in Cleveland in partnership with the National Digital Inclusion Alliance, as well as PCs for People. And so as a Connect Home champion, he works to actively promote digital inclusion across the US and is an ambassador to other communities seeking to learn the strategies employed in Detroit's successful initiative. Next slide, please. All right, so the next locality I want to speak about is Roxborough, North Carolina. Roxborough is a rural community with a little over 8,000 residents, and it has only about 200 public housing units in the town. And these units serve mainly elderly and disabled populations. So the initial goal of the Public Housing Authority was to provide 25 free devices to residents while covering the cost of their Wi-Fi access. And what they did is they partnered with the local community college, Piedmont Community College, in order to provide digital literacy courses for residents, utilizing their campus spaces. So what would happen is residents would sign up through the Public Housing Authority to receive these devices, and then they'd go through the trainings at Piedmont. And then once successfully completing the course, they would receive their free tablet devices. Also, the Public Housing Authority received a grant through GitHub, which really allowed the scaling of inventory to provide laptops and all-in-one computing devices, not just for the elderly and disabled populations, but also all low-income residents who qualify throughout Roxborough. And Roxborough also partnered with Spectrum, who is their local internet service provider, to provide free Wi-Fi access to all the residents, low-income residents in Roxborough. And during the last year, they also utilized CARES Act funding to provide computers to all school-age children, attending a school from home during the pandemic. And then I also wanted to speak about the distribution event. So what the city did, the city IT ensured that all the computing devices that they were going to distribute had microphones, webcams, and virus protection features prior to the distribution event. And that's just so that the residents had, all the features available to them that they, may need to use and, not have to, seek out these devices and extra features on their own. And actually during the distribution event, the Public Housing Authority staff, went there in person, and when they met with residents during their appointments, they ensured that all the devices could be turned on, that they could be accessed by the residents, and they could also answer any initial questions that the residents had. And a digital guidebook was also distributed to them with their device, and it was created through the city of Phoenix, particularly Mindy Davis and Patricia Everett created this digital booklet, and that was just to help learn the basic features of the computer and also, troubleshoot, simple issues if they came up. Next slide, please. Okay, so speaking of the city of Phoenix, they are able to successfully partner with T-Mobile for the purposes of securing 800 free tablet devices for public housing residents. And the way they did this is T-Mobile allowed the city to purchase these devices with a 2-year subscription plan. So they didn't actually need to buy the devices themselves. They just bought the subscription plan for all these tablets. And they allowed the distribution of these devices at no cost to residents. And residents were able to own these devices as well. And initially, their first rollout was to assist families with kids so that they could learn from home. And in addition to this, T-Mobile provided Bluetooth keyboard cases and SD cards during the distribution event. And then I recently learned through CARES Act funding, the city was able to purchase an additional 800 devices, which were distributed to seniors living in public housing. And this was just within the last week. And through this initiative, they partnered with AMI Strategies to use as sort of an IT help desk to support senior residents living in public housing. So, if residents had issues, they could just contact AMI Strategies and they could assist with any troubleshooting. And then I wanted to speak about mobile device management as well. And this city utilized this technology acquired through T-Mobile, which allowed the city to remote access devices. The city IT was able to push necessary system updates, provide any troubleshooting help remotely, as well as even install requested apps that residents may want to use on their devices. But at the moment, they might not have the digital literacy skills needed to find and install these programs independently themselves. So the city could assist with that. And then I also wanted to touch on the importance of engaging residents with digital technology. So what the city did is they designed community virtual activities. And that was one way that they could continue resident engagement, following the distribution event, because it's usually not enough just to, hand out the devices. It's really important to kind of have some follow-up and engage residents and, keep them interested in, wanting to learn about the technology that they're using. So the city did things such as virtual book clubs, online bingo, as well as, a host of different skills classes for that effort. Next slide, please. So as you can see, Tucson is one of many cities from across the United States that has recently joined in a nationwide effort towards lessening our digital divide. And you can also see that every community approaches these aspects of digital inclusion in their own unique way. It's really important that the partnerships that we develop and sustain through our work will really drive this initiative forward, and that we leverage the strength of Tucson and our own unique cultural identity as a city in the Southwest, and the other things that really bring our city life in our efforts to promote digital inclusion. So I want to thank you all for being here today and participating in something special that could really improve the lives for many individuals and families living within our community. So thank you again, and I look forward to speaking with you further in our breakout sessions.
All right, thank you, Jared. Thank you, Mick. Real quick, if we can get this in, I think this one is a question for you, Mick, real quick. Is there data on the turnout for those follow-up events?
Excuse me, Mike?
I believe if I'm, I may be, they're talking about the Phoenix example you gave. Is there data on the turnout for those follow-up events?
I would have to go look for that data.
Okay, and that is from Echo Casey, if you have a chance to respond.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you.
Thanks, guys. All right. I'd like to just personally thank everybody who who's attending this meeting. I noticed that we had been, plus or minus about 60 people, and I've got a great passion for technology and interacting with community and stuff like that. So again, I just wanted to get that out there. Thank you all for being here, just personally as well. Now we're about to go into our breakout groups. Allison's going to lead us into our breakout groups in the first session. I just want to say this up front before Allison gets to it. Our target time is going to be 10:10. She'll probably tell you, but I just want to throw it out there ahead of time. Allison?
Thanks, Mike, and thank you for all of your work with residents of Tucson House and across the city on digital inclusion. Normally in previous years, other Connect Home communities have been able to meet in person with their diverse array of partners, and we're obviously doing our convening virtually. But we're going to try to be as interactive and personal as possible, and that's why we're doing these breakout sessions to really give everyone a chance to kind of to hone in and share their ideas and share their work, and so that hopefully we can collect all of that information and put that towards an action plan and new strategies and ways to strengthen existing efforts towards digital inclusion in Tucson. So, right, we've got some of our creative juices flowing. Heard about what's working, how some of the logistics of this stuff works, from connections and devices, as well as some inspirational or aspirational examples of what other communities are doing. So in the breakout sessions, we're really hoping to hone in on, what are our goals as a Tucson community? What do we want to accomplish? What do we think we mean by digital inclusion? And so that's going to be our first breakout session. The second, as just a quick teaser, is going to be more focused on, on the ground, what are people doing right now, and what are the resources and strategies that we want and need to build in order to accomplish the goals that we set out for ourselves. So to do that, we're going to start with these breakout sessions. We're going to try a format called virtual sticky notes. So I'm going to kind of walk you through a little bit what that looks like, but you'll have facilitators and note takers in each of your breakout rooms who know kind of what we're doing, and can also help you through the logistics. So Rachel is going to share a link to a public Google Doc that everyone should have editing access to. You're going to use that link to access the shared doc. If you're not comfortable with that, feel free to just enter your breakout room and participate that way. That's totally fine. But if you are comfortable with it, there will be one slide per question per group. So each group will have a color and a number. You'll go to that section of the Google Doc. And then for each question, the facilitator will ask you a question. You'll take a couple minutes to think about it and type out your own response without really starting to engage in conversation with the rest of your group members. And then the facilitator will start to kind of pull out the conversation. We'll call out some of the themes that they're seeing. We'll ask people to share their responses, kind of have it, and we can have a conversation about getting to a shared understanding for each of those questions. So for each breakout room, there's going to be 2 main questions. So the facilitators will also guide you through. There's going to be about 10 minutes probably to be able to spend on each question. And the big things to keep in mind is that this is a brainstorming session, so there are no wrong answers. Please just type whatever comes to mind, and recognize that we have a real diversity of knowledge and expertise in the room. Right, we have people who know Tucson really well. We have people who know like specific communities really well, but we also have local and national partners who have worked in other communities. I think Mindy Davis is still on with us from Phoenix. We've been learning a lot from her. So I just welcome everyone to share their experience, share from their knowledge base, and to really help us develop a shared understanding of kind of where we want to go as a community. So right, the first breakout session, we're going to discuss our definitions. What do we actually mean by digital inclusion? What does that mean to you? Who are we including? And then the second question will focus on what are our goals as a community? What would a successful digital inclusion platform look like? So with that, we're running a couple minutes into the breakout rooms. I'm going to have Rachel send us off, and like Mike said, we're going to reconvene back at 10:10 for the next one. So see you on the other side. Also, sorry, one more thing. If you do have technical difficulties, Rachel Hutchinson is the host extraordinaire on this, and you can message her or feel free to message me as well if you have any technical difficulties, both for the facilitators and just participants. So I think Rachel shared the link to the Google Doc in the chat. So again, if you're comfortable, please pull that up on whatever device you're working on. And if you're not, that's also totally fine. All right, with that, thank you all, and we'll get started. Go ahead, Rachel. Okay.
So, do we still have some stragglers, or is everyone back? Can you tell? Checking my executive production team there.
I think everyone is back now.
Okay, all right. So to check the schedule, so do we want to take a 1-2 minute break here and maybe adjust our plan for the schedule, Allison, or what do you want to do?
Let's give everyone some like 30-second stretch break. You could turn off your camera or keep it on and show everyone your yoga moves. But while you do it, feel free to kind of walk around, but I can kind of introduce what we're going to talk about in the next breakout room as well, since I want to keep us on track. So there's so much good conversation, and I want to make sure that we get more. So let's see.
Since everyone is back, I'm just going to say, unless Allison wants to change it, our next target time is going to be 10:40. Are we going to stay with that, or you want to massage that a little bit?
We might move it back a little, just to make
Okay.
sure we get. Okay, 1 second. I mean, I guess this isn't very exciting of a slide. So our next breakout room, breakout session number 2. I think I heard some people already kind of sharing what they're working on, what is needed, but that's really the goal of this next session. Right, what are the resources that we have, both in Tucson, right, and what are, what's available to us. We have several, again, kind of national partners in the Connect Home effort. I'm looking at Tony Frank from PCs for People right now. Hi, Tony. Thank you for joining us. So, right, what's going on in Tucson right now? What is Cox doing? What is the community wireless program going on? Like, let's all just kind of brainstorm. I saw that Steve earlier shared some information about a training that's going on Monday, right? Like, what are all of the things, right? Where the city of Tucson, HCD is, like Liz said, new to this. So we don't want to reinvent the wheel. We want to just plug into kind of what's currently going on, what are best practices. And then the second question is going to be kind of what are the next steps and what's needed. So what do we need that's not happening right now that we want to strengthen or build, especially for our HUD-assisted residents, but right, we know that this is much broader than that as well. So that's the real opportunity to be creative, think back to what other cities have been doing. How can we adapt those things to Tucson? How can we be creative and think of something that is really unique to us? So again, like, please share your experience, share what you know, and just share your ideas. So with that, yeah, let's see. We still want to give people maybe 20-25 minutes. So let's say we'll try to reconvene and wrap up around 10:45.
Got it. 10:45 is the new target time.
And everyone's going to go back into their regular group, so you don't have to do introductions again. So, if you want to have a couple minutes of something that you didn't wrap up in the last session, that's fine too. Thanks all. See you on the other side.